Welcome back to the Fantasy Endgame. I'm Pierre, here to help you for fantasy baseball. We're now a week removed from the All-Star break. Got some games in, see who has responded well out of the gate, and some surprising names that I have got to throw down for you today. Now, let me also mention that the trade deadline for MLB is right around the corner. A lot of things are going to shift and move as far as waiver wire pickups. There are some sneaky ads that you might want to see. I did talk about that in one of the shorts if you check out our short section here on YouTube. But let me talk about some guys that right now we know are hot, are available, at least for most leagues. So let's get into that. All right, so the first hitter I want to mention is a guy that, well, might surprise you. That is Jeimer Candelario. This is a guy on the Detroit Tigers, corner infielder, primarily playing first base. This is somebody who has shown spurts, flashes of talent, but never really put it together. And like most of the names you'll see just still out there in the waiver wire these days, he's on a bad team. So Candelario is a guy who does have some power. He's been successful in small stretches, but never put it together really. For some reason, he decided as soon as the break ended, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and show and prove. He's just been absolutely on fire in the last 6 games, 4 home runs and 8 RBIs. And here's the best part. So Candelario, kind of before I started digging into the stats, I even saw him pop up. He's a little bit trendy here in the fantasy baseball Twitter world because he had a pretty funny quote. I really have to read it to you. Talking about what's going to happen, if he finishes strong this year and going ahead next year with the Tigers kind of, again, being in like rebuilding mode. So he says, it's not just on me because one person isn't going to do it all. You see LeBron James in the NBA, he's the best player. He cannot do it all. So is Candelario comparing himself to LeBron James? Sort of, but not exactly. He never said he is the LeBron of his team. He's just kind of making the analogy saying that, it's a team sport and not just one guy. And Candelario, honestly, he's a guy, he's never going to be a superstar, but he does have some pop. Look, the Tigers, not a good offense. They're probably going to be big-time sellers coming here at the deadline, but that might be good for him because he gets even more playing time, move up in the lineup even. A lot of times, good fantasy value comes from these bad teams because these players all of a sudden turn it on. We saw with the Cubs last year after they had their fire sale. Guys came out of nowhere like Frank Schwindel, came really fantasy, I don't want to say league winners, but very helpful players down the stretch. Candelario might be one of those guys. So at least take a look at him. While he's hot, you could stream him, and then we'll see. Maybe he will be Detroit's LeBron. Same situation here. Almost equally bad team. Definitely going to be sellers, and that is the Oakland A's. A guy who's been a veteran, has not really been super exciting for fantasy, but all of a sudden decided coming out of the second half, he's just going to mash Chad Pinder. He's kind of a utility guy, plays second base and outfield. He's been serviceable before. Definitely not going to be a star, never will be, never has been. But he's mashing for some reason right now. 2 homers and 8 RBIs since the break. Again, talking about fewer than 7 games, not even a week's worth played so far. He's on fire. Look, Oakland is going to be an interesting team to watch because a lot of players are all of a sudden going to get some playing time that weren't before. Pinder, we know at least has a history of being productive. He will drive in runs even on this bad offense. So Pinder's a guy, and he does qualify at second base, and that's definitely a thin position. If you're still scrambling to try to recover from the Ozzie Albies injury or John Segura, this is somebody who might be serviceable. I know I picked him up in one league out of sheer desperation, but hey, that's how it is sometimes. His playing time will be guaranteed, so Pinder's a guy that might be serviceable to you. All right, now a guy who's been hot way before the All-Star break is Alec Bohm of the Philadelphia Phillies. Bohm is interesting, really coming up as a prospect. Thought he was going to be a power first hitter as a third baseman, and he hasn't really shown a lot of power, but he has shown an exceedingly interesting ability to hit for average, and that's continuing, and it's actually getting stronger. These last 4 games he's played, he's had multi-hit games in those 4 straight. He's got an 11-game hitting streak heading back to before the All-Star break, but even more so, over the past month, he's hitting .416. He's got his season-long average now up to 290. He's absolutely hitting for average, especially at the corner infield where, it's usually power over average. The only thing is he's not giving you the power, only 6 homers in the season, even in Philadelphia. Thought this was going to be a homer-happy team. It's a trade-off. Obviously, you'd like to see him show a little bit more home run upside. I don't know if that's ever going to come. At least he's hitting for average though. So if you're in the standings and you're looking at yourself needing help in batting average, this is a guy who is still out there for some reason, only owned in 40% of leagues. I get that the across the board stats aren't super exciting, but again, you need to help in batting average. That's hard to kind of climb out of a hole for him. So this is somebody who can definitely help you there. Now, what if you just want power? Like, that's it. I need some home runs. I need it in my lineup now. Why not try Nick Pratto? Talked a couple of weeks ago about Vinny Pasquantino, prospect for the Royals, who surprisingly did get the call. Thought that they would make him kind of toil in the minors for a while, Royals being Royals. Now they also brought up Pratto, somebody who has been a high-end prospect for a while. Took him a little bit of time. He had to change some things with his swing and his approach. You know, obviously improve his play discipline quite a bit, but he's turned it around. He was doing pretty well in the minors, had 17 home runs and 47 RBIs through the first half of the season at AAA. Can he carry that success forward in the majors? Well, we'll see. He's only been up for a short time. One good sign, though, is that his play discipline so far in the majors has been pretty good. In fact, his strikeout rate is even lower than it was in the minors. It is a small sample for sure, but Pratto is definitely somebody worth watching, and we know the Royals are about to be sellers, and there's going to be a ton of playing time open for both him and Pasquantino. Don't worry about, are these guys going to eat into each other's at-bats? You know, is there going to be enough? Look, they're going to get rid of Benintendi. They might even trade with Merrifield. I don't think they will, but they might. Who knows, right? Anything goes there in KC. So I think Pratto is there to stay. We'll see how he does at the major league level over the long term, but at the very least, he does have home run upside. And then a guy who I almost just don't want to bring up because he's been one of the biggest teases in fantasy the last couple of years since he had that great rookie season. Victor Robles of the Washington Nationals. Remember when he was the next superstar? Yeah, I barely remember that. It was a while ago. And he's been terrible since then. Maybe he's coming back at least partially. Signs of life in July. He's hitting .288. He's got 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 7 runs scored, and most importantly, 5 steals. So you need speed. Robles, we know he can do that. He does have pop. He's shown power before a little bit, right? Some signs of life, at least recently. Washington is going to probably give him a chance to just play out every day the rest of this year because they too are not contenders. I know it's kind of hard to trust him, especially if you were bit by him couple of years ago and you drafted him way too early. He's performing. He's going to be in the lineup. He's got the physical ability and the tools, that's for sure. We'll see if he can continue this role he's on. And then finally, if John Segura, who I mentioned earlier, is available, he was dropped in a lot of leagues because, of course, on the 60-day IL, he's missed several weeks now. 40% of fantasy leagues, that's it. So that means he was stashed in some places, but he should be available in quite a bit, especially shallower leagues. He's coming back. He's already rehabbing, should join the Phillies pretty soon. He was playing pretty well, having one of his best early seasons so far, hitting .275, 6 home runs, and 8 stolen bases. And that was, again, pretty small sample, about 2 months of play. So Segura, definitely a guy who can help across the board in all roto categories. If he's floating out there on your waiver wire, I do recommend grabbing him now. All right, those are my top hitter waiver wire picks for this week. Trade deadline, as always, is going to be interesting. I'll have some instant reaction for you and some new and improved picks for you a week from now. Guys, check us out, of course, all season long. We're here to help you win.